Hello, this is Dr. Steele. Today I want to talk to you about something in medicine called glucose toxicity. Glucose toxicity. Glucose toxicity is defined as the ability of excess glucose to impair insulin secretion and action. What I mean by that is that glucose in itself not only help us live longer because we need it as energy to produce ATP, but also unfortunately in excess, like anything else in life, too much water, too much exercise, too much of anything, too much food can lead to problems. So the ability of the body to regulate itself and not let excess sugar to be in your bloodstream, as you can see in the picture, we can actually not only live a healthier life, but live longer. And the idea is that certain foods, and I call them fake foods, that we unfortunately ingest because of our culture. Because remember, we inherit from our family not only our genes, but we also inherit our eating habits and also our beliefs. So the idea that eating a cookie is a good idea because this is a dessert is not necessarily true as a belief and also as a dietary pattern or habit. So it's important to recognize that as we get older, maybe when you're young, you're a child, teenager, you can tolerate those excess sugars. But as we get older, especially after 50, we need to back down. So I want to remind you that not only sugar is toxic to your pancreas or to your tissues, but also to your vessels, right? Which is, I've said before, the main site of diabetes where it primarily damages is your vessels, right? Your arterial system. And we call that arterial for air. That's where your red cells that carry oxygen cannot go through those vessels if they're full of sugar. And I'm being simplistic because there's more to that. If you have a metabolic disorder called diabetes, it also affects how you metabolize your proteins, your fats, but I'm going to concentrate on the sugars. And I'm going to give you an analogy or a metaphor. Let's say there's a fire in my building and it's a small fire. How fast can I go out of my building? Well, I can open the door and walk away, run away. But what about if in my building, all the way to my knees is full of mud, full of dirt, mud, and I cannot freely go outside, running because it's going to take me a long time. But it's just like that for your vessels. If you have a lot of sugar, like honey, it's sticky. So the red cells, which carry oxygen, are going to have a hard time going through those vessels. And that can lead to primarily 6 main problems that I mentioned before in my previous videos. One is big vessel problems, brain attacks, which are called strokes, heart attacks, which are primarily the number one killer of especially men and all of us, foot amputations because there's no more circulation going to your feet, little vessels, small arterial vessels, your eyes, if those vessels can get affected, you lose your ability to see. If you have your kidneys, those vessels, one of the filters of your blood gets affected, it can lead to something called kidney failure. And of course, your nerves, those little vessels that innervate, especially was more distal, more away from your body, like your hands or your feet, especially your feet, we're going to have neuropathy. So I just want to remind you briefly that it's important to regulate not only how you take care of your diabetes, but very importantly, how you eat, because the food is not only the most important medicine that you can take, but even though you don't have diabetes, if you eat garbage, you're going to have the same problem as you get older. So it's important not only to think about people with diabetes, but even normal people that eat things that aren't good for them, things that are more fake, as I mentioned before, are going to have similar problems for circulation as they get older. Not everybody, but a lot of them. So this is my talk for today.